Obi-Wan Kenobi served as Luke Skywalker's first master, introducing the young boy to the Force and the ways of the Jedi. In canon, after sacrificing himself on the Death Star, Obi-Wan appeared to Yoda as a Force ghost, asking the old Grand Master to train Luke as his final Padawan. While Yoda was initially reluctant, Obi-Wan insisted that Luke would redeem the Jedi, and was the only one who could confront the Sith. During Luke's training with Yoda, Obi-Wan was always watching from the netherworld of the Force, pondering not only Luke's flaws and obstacles, but Anakin's as well. In the canon book The Empire Strikes Back from a certain point of view, there is an entire story from Obi-Wan's perspective, revealing his thoughts on Luke's training and what was going through his mind as Luke foolishly rushed to save his friends on Bespin. I had hoped that dying would be enough to untangle me from the Skywalker family's issues, and yet here I am again, Obi-Wan Kenobi, one with the Force and still the only thing standing between a Skywalker and an impulsive decision that could have galactic consequences. Tatooine had by no means been a glamorous locale for exile, though I had no choice but to settle myself near Luke's new guardians. Yoda, however, with an entire galaxy at his fingertips, had been so determined to make a meal of his martyrdom that he chose Dagobah as his refuge, the only planet that smells worse than the Jedi Temple training rooms after a combat class with 14-year-olds. Death is better than Dagobah, I think, as the swamp world crystallizes around me. I'm shocked Luke stayed this long. If it were Anakin sent here, with minimal instructions delivered to him by a ghost, only to see his ship swallowed by a sinkhole, Yoda cracking his droid on the dome, then deeming him unteachable before they'd had a chance to talk about anything beyond Yoda's terrible cooking, he would have been grinding his teeth in that way that used to drive me mad. All that, plus the low ceilings, the perpetual damp, and snakes in places they had no business being. The moment the rain started, Anakin would have stormed out of the hut loudly reciting an itemized list of frustrations to no one in particular. If he'd been unable to get his X-Wing out of the swamp, I have no doubt Anakin would have found a way to walk off the planet. But Luke had stayed, and Master Yoda had taught him. And I only had to appear to Yoda in half a dozen of his dreams to convince him that Luke was not Anakin, and this time would be different. We are all better than we had been before. Or not better, but at least we knew what not to do when it comes to training chosen ones. Through the swampy mist rising off the soil, I see Luke throwing supplies into the cargo bay of his X-Wing, hasty and disorganized, shouting over his shoulder at Yoda. I seem to have arrived mid-rant, and though Luke has yet to notice me, I doubt my presence would have done much to quell his passion. Anakin never held his tongue around his elders. The Skywalkers are wildfires, their passions scorching the dirt as soon as they're given a spark. Even Leia was already well known for her ability to set the Empire on fire with nothing but a wet match. Relentless was the word Bail had most often used when he had sent me reports about her. Her mother would have been proud. Luke shouts about his friends as he darts nimbly around the edge of his X-Wing to fiddle with the control panel in the cockpit. His orange flight suit looks garish amid the greens and browns of the swamp, a smudge of flame in the gloom. From his perch atop the ship, R2-D2 whistles his ascent, ever the instigator. "I've got to help them," Luke says. "You must not go," Yoda replies. He's huddled on the ground beneath the nose of the X-Wing, and though I have only ever known a stooped, slow-moving Yoda, somehow he seems even shakier on his feet than the last time I was here. He's leaning heavily on his gnarled cane as it sinks into the mud, his posture the curled crook of a being who has become too accustomed to living in darkness. "But Han and Leia will die if I don't," Luke replies ferociously, dropping off the ladder of his starfighter. Since no one is pointing out the obvious flaw in that logic, I feel the need to finally intervene. "You don't know that," I say dryly. Luke doesn't look surprised as he turns to me. This isn't the first time I've had to make an appearance here to facilitate a group therapy session with him and Yoda. His hair has gotten longer since I last saw him, and it falls over the scars that have rearranged one side of his face since the Wampa attack. I had hoped that death and time and oneness with the Force might take the edge off the strangeness of seeing Anakin's eyes in his son's face. But now, as they blaze with the same determination I saw so many times in life, it overwhelms me. I had spent years and years in that tiny sand cell on Tatooine, sweating and perpetually dehydrated and with nothing to do but relive everything I could have done differently and then slowly let each one go, trying to make peace with losing Anakin. But the shades of him in his son's face catapult me back in time, and all the years I spent by Anakin's side, fighting and teaching and laughing and arguing and nearly dying and saving each other over and over again, spill out across my mind. And now here is his son, looking at me with those same flushed cheeks, caring too much about everything, and both my life and death would be so much easier if the Skywalkers didn't care so much. How different this galaxy would be if the Skywalkers didn't care so much. It isn't about Anakin anymore, I remind myself, struggling to return to the present moment. It's about Luke, and not letting him make the same mistakes his father and I did. Why even in death must I chide myself to focus on now and here, like I'm a Padawan struggling to sit still? Even Yoda cannot see their fate, I say. But I can help them, Luke protests. I feel the Force. But you cannot control it. In his early days of training, Anakin had always been so tentative in speaking about the Force, like it was a word in a foreign language whose meaning he still wasn't entirely sure of. With Luke, there's no hesitation, even though the concept was only introduced to him a few years earlier. Now, when he needs a reason to go, the Force is telling him exactly what to do, like it's a guidebook I'd been recommending to him. That's not how the Force works, I think, and resist the urge to rub my temples, a habit Anakin had always teased me about. Luke turns away, shoving a hand through his hair. I look to Yoda with a silent plea to back me up, but he seems to have taken my arrival as an invitation to move into the back seat of this teaching moment. This is a dangerous time for you, I say to Luke, when you will be tempted by the dark side of the Force. Yoda suddenly seems to remember that he's the only living authority figure here, and he pipes up. Yes, yes, to Obi-Wan you listen. The cave. Remember your failure at the cave. I don't know what cave he refers to, but I don't ask. I don't need another reason to doubt Luke. I had always doubted Anakin, and he had felt that wobble in our foundation from the start. Add it to the list of mistakes I was trying not to make again. But I've learned so much since then, Luke protests, and I resist the urge to snort. As though carrying Yoda on your shoulders and eating his terrible cooking for a few weeks makes you a Jedi. Master Yoda, I promise to return and finish what I've begun. You have my word. Why did I come? I lost this fight before it even began. Anakin never learned how to back down from an argument, even if he had definitely been proved wrong. Why did I think Luke should be any different? You can't keep a promise if you're dead, Luke, I want to say. And you'll be dead if you go because it is clear to everyone here but you that this is a trap. Which I can't say because you're your father's stubborn son, and it will only make you want to argue more. The Skywalkers don't listen. Every argument I ever had with Anakin, it felt like he was fighting with a version of me in his head rather than actually confronting the things I was saying. The Skywalkers could level planets with their obstinacy. Instead, I say, it is you and your abilities the Emperor wants, which is as close to the truth as I can creep without telling him who passed those abilities on to him. That is why your friends are made to suffer. And that is why I have to go, Luke replies. I blink several times, waiting for him to realize how little sense that argument makes. He doesn't. Luke turns back to his X-Wing, swinging the door to the cargo bay shut, and frustration wells inside me. It's a struggle to tamp it down. I am still a Jedi. I am still in control of myself and my feelings. But I never had a hold on my own heart when it came to Anakin. That was part of his undoing. Luke, I call as he mounts the ladder leading to the cockpit. Desperation splits my voice. How is it I have dealt with this family for generations and still haven't figured out how to get through to them? I don't want to lose you to the Emperor the way I lost. I fumble. What I want to say is Anakin. What I want to say is my best friend. What I want to say is your father, the way we both lost him. To a needless war, to a wild heart, to a doomed prophecy. Instead, I finish Vader. Luke turns back to me, and there it is again, the wild glint in his eyes. There is Anakin. You won't, Luke says. Stopped they must be. Yoda is starting to sound frustrated, which is a testament to just how infuriating Luke is. Even Anakin rarely cracked Master Yoda. On this all depends. Only a fully trained Jedi Knight with the Force as his ally will conquer Vader and the Emperor. If you end your training now, if you choose the quick and easy path as Vader did, you will become an agent of evil. I glance down at Yoda, resisting the urge to argue. A divided front won't do us any good in persuading Luke to listen, but I want to point out that Anakin's path was never easy. I don't know why I am defending Anakin, even in my own head, especially after he killed me. Luke looks between us, his eyes suddenly pleading. He wants to go, but more than that, he wants us to tell him he's right, that he's doing the right thing. The Skywalkers always want to do the right thing. It's what gets them every time. All I say is patience. And sacrifice Han and Leia, Luke shoots back. If you honor what they fight for, Yoda replies, yes. Luke's face sets, and then he turns away from us. His hand is strangling the struts of the ladder leading up to the cockpit. If you choose to face Vader, I say, you will do it alone. I cannot interfere. I say it mostly in the hope it will scare him into staying. He's never truly fought alone before. He's never been alone before. He hardly knows Han and Leia, and doesn't yet know who Leia is to him, and already his heart has put down deep roots, just like his father. With Anakin, it was his mother, then Qui-Gon and me, and Ahsoka and Padme. Childhood abandonment resulting in him clinging with white knuckles to whoever was nearest him. Luke presses his forehead against the ladder, and I think for a moment I've scared him enough that he'll stay. But then he says quietly, I understand. He turns back to us just for a moment, and there he is again, the son of my friend who could never be talked out of anything he set his mind to. R2, Luke calls as he mounts the ladder, fire up the converters. Luke, I call, one last attempt, but when he turns back to me, the words die in my throat. Everything I want to say to him suddenly feels hollow and untrue. The language of the Jedi that I had spouted for years, first to Anakin, now to his son. For every way the Council had broken Anakin down, I had stood by and let them. I had been their arbiter of justice, repeating the language they had given me. Why didn't I fight for Anakin, I think? So instead, I offer the only advice I have. Don't give in to hate. That leads to the dark side. Strong is Vader, Yoda adds. Mind what you have learned. Save you it can. Luke tugs the strap of his helmet into place. I will, he says, and I'll return. I promise. If only those were the sort of promises we could keep, I think. The cockpit of the X-Wing closes with a pneumatic hiss, and the swamp debris beneath it is blown aside as the engines fire. The starfighter lifts off, casting Yoda and I into darkness. Told you I did, Yoda murmurs, his face to the sky, and I wonder if he resents ghosts like me for arriving without warning. Reckless is he. Now, matters are worse. That boy is our last hope, I say, and in my voice, I hear every Jedi before me who brought us here, dead and desperate and up to our knees in a swamp. But Yoda shakes his head. No, there is another. And it's a long, quiet moment between us before I remind myself it isn't Anakin. He's not here anymore, and neither am I. Thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and may the Force be with you.